So my younger brother just started like his first full-time job, and he's living out on his own for the first time, and he reached out and he was like, he wanted me to help him make a budget. And I was like, of course, like I live for moments like this. Of course I'll make a budget for you. So in this video, I thought it would be a great chance to go over how to make a budget and the things that you should consider, and especially for people who, like my younger brother, this is your first time like being an adult and you have no clue how to even start. And if this interests you, I make videos like this all the time around budgeting, just money in general, like personal finance type things. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed. Okay, so where to even start? If this is your first time living on your own, your first time like fully financing your own life, I regret to inform you, it is expensive out here. If no one's told you that, and I'm the first one, this may be a shocker to you, but it's time you learn. Anyway, so where to start? I've been reading this book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, by, I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry to that man. But he has a show on Netflix. He has his book. He has a podcast. Pretty interesting if you want to check out any of those things. And I will be discussing this book in a future video. But in this book, he talks about a conscious spending plan as opposed to a budget, because budgeting is like a trigger word for some people. So he came up with like a conscious spending plan, and basically that's dividing your life into 4 categories. And those categories are fixed costs, so like your rent and bills. Next is investing. And then there's savings, and then there's like your guilt-free spending type of money. And I thought that this was a really good kind of outline for people who haven't had a budget before. So a good way of thinking about your money and things that you have to like spend money on to live and how you can break those things up. And so some further guidelines with that. So with fixed costs, you don't want to spend more than like 60% of your money on fixed costs, unless as a disclaimer, this is like your take-home money, so what you actually bring home after like taxes and everything. So let's say it has to be between like 50 to 60%. And fixed costs, that's like your rent. It's defined as like anything that you need to live, emphasis on need. Like you could not live life without these things. Like you need food, you need shelter, you need transportation, possibly. So things that you need, not want. And by need, it's also like, I would define that as like groceries. Like you need groceries. You don't need to eat out. So think of it like those type of differences. Next, and for this example, let's just say we did 50% of your take-home pay is on fixed costs. Next would be your investments. So that's thinking about future you. You're not going to be able to work your whole life, or at least you shouldn't. You know, I think the retirement age is like 65. So what are you gonna do after you're done working and you're retired? How will you bring money in? That means starting right now, however old you are watching this video, starting right now, you need to think about your future self, your like old self, and look out for them and start investing into your future, so that when you are 70, you don't have to rely on like your kids to financially support you, or maybe you won't have any kids. Like who's gonna take care of you then, you know? Like, so investing for the future, and that's investing in your 401k, which is something that you can enroll in if you have a job, like your employer should offer a 401k, or a IRA, and that's something you don't have to have an employer for, but something that you can sign up for yourself. Those are all like deeper topics, and we can cover those in like other videos, but just to get like your mind thinking about those things. So remember, 401k, Roth IRA. So investing in that, and you can invest anywhere from 5 to 10% of your take-home pay into those investments. For this example, let's just say you're doing 10%. And then the next category is savings goals. So that's anything that you want for the future. Like right now, I'm saving for a house. So with each paycheck, I put money aside to save for my house. So it can be, think of it as like, it can be short-term goals. Maybe like for Christmas, you want to buy yourself some AirPod Max, which are like $500, almost $600 headphones. Maybe that's like a short-term savings goal for you, or a mid-term savings goal. Next year, me and my friends, we want to go to New Zealand. True story, that is what we want to do. But I should start saving for that now, because that'll be like an expensive trip. Or long-term goals, maybe you're getting married, or maybe you're not even engaged yet, but like you want to be married, so maybe you're like saving for that one day. Or like me, saving for a house. I've technically been trying to get a house since like 2021, so it has turned into like a long-term savings goal for me. So anything like that, but you'd want to be saving like 20% for savings. So 20% of your take-home pay is for savings. And then last is guilt-free spending. So that's like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's whatever you want. You don't even think about it. And you would do 20% of your take-home pay, anywhere from 20 to 30%. But for this example, we're gonna do 20%. And again, that is anything you want it to be. You wanna eat out every single day, as long as it's within that 20% that you have allocated for yourself, go ahead and do it. You wanna buy those shoes, you wanna buy that video game, you wanna put a new sound system in your car, you wanna do this, you wanna do that. Whatever it is, you can do it. And you don't have to ask for permission from yourself, or you don't have to feel guilty for doing this, because you've already allocated that money to do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, so those were some examples, but let's see how that actually looks. And I have a pie chart with some made up numbers to respect my brother's privacy. He's not a crazy person like me, and he doesn't want the internet knowing how much he makes. So I'm gonna make up some numbers for him. Okay, so in this example, let's say that my brother brings home $3,000 every month, okay? I think that would be somewhere between like $40,000 and $50,000 a year that he would make, and his take-home pay, so that's after taxes, that's after paying for like health insurance. Oh, if you are younger than 26, you may not realize this, but if you are younger than 26, you do have to have health insurance, but you are young enough to be on your parents' health insurance. However, once you turn 26, you legally cannot be on your parents' health insurance anymore, which means you have to pay for that, which means it'll start coming out of your paycheck. When that happened to me, like, I realized it was going to happen, but it was still just like a shock seeing it in my paycheck. So in case no one's told you that before, now you know. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But anyway, yes, so I created this for my brother. So this is like a clean slate of him bringing home $3,000 a month in this example. So let's start from the beginning. So let me explain line by line what this is. So first is the essentials, or to match the terminology of the conscious spending plan, this is the fixed costs. So with that, this is things like rent, utilities, groceries, anything related to your car, if you have a car, or like transportation costs if you live in a city where you can utilize public transportation. Sorry, there was a plane flying by, so if you hear that sound, that's what that is. So in this example, we're gonna do 50%. So that means that all of the fixed costs can't be more than $1,500, because that's half of $3,000. Now, that, just looking at that is kind of like iffy to me, because that kind of means that you definitely have to have a roommate, because rent alone for like one-bedroom apartments can be $1,500 in a lot of cities across the country. So at this, you're pretty much like guaranteed to need a roommate, because what you don't want to do is be house poor or apartment poor and the majority of your money is going towards your housing costs. That is a sad life. You don't want that for you. Okay, I don't want that for you either. So in this situation, you would either find the cheapest place that you can afford, or get a roommate, or make more money. So whichever one of those is the easiest and quickest for you to do, that's what I would do in this situation. But again, $1,500 for all of your fixed costs. And also think of things like annual things that'll come up, like, well, I pay my car insurance like every 6 months, but consider those type of things like car registration. When I was talking to my brother about this, he, this is his first year like living on his own, so he didn't think about everything, and it took like multiple conversations of us like, do you pay for this? Like, have you thought about this? Like, how much do you put in gas in your car? Or like, is there an estimate for that? Like, what are all of your subscriptions that you subscribe to? Like, literally, what does it cost for you to live type conversations. So we had to have this conversation multiple times. And if you're doing this for yourself, you may not be able to be done like in a single day, because you may not even realize that you left some things out. So I would do this exercise like probably over the course of a week, and just every time you look at it, think like, what am I missing type stuff. But yeah, so let's go on to the next line. Now next is tithes. That's not a part of the conscious spending plan, but I'm Christian, my brother's Christian, so I included this. But if this doesn't apply to you, then maybe just skip this section. But tithing is 10%, so that would be $300. And out of this, you can choose like which category you would take this 10% from. So like guilt-free spending is supposed to be 20%, but maybe you reduce that down to 10% to make room for tithing. I wouldn't decrease your investments, and I would be cautious about decreasing the savings as well. So savings is supposed to be 20 and guilt-free is supposed to be 20. Maybe you reduce both of those down to like 15 to carve out room for that 10% for tithing. But again, that's up to you how you would do that, and it's up to you whether you would tithe or not. But in this example, we're gonna say that we're tithing 10%. Next is long-term investments. So that is supposed to be 10%. 10% again, which is $300. And also I've made like little annotations beside this, so that I literally like took a screenshot of this and sent it to my brother. And I wrote these things out, like for tithes. I said, watch how God takes care of you. Because it's been proven true in my life. For the long-term investments, highly recommend. Because again, we have to think about the older version of you, and the younger you are thinking about the older version of you, the better off the older you will be, because you'll have time for your investments to compound and have compound interest on all of your investments. So if you were like 20 years old watching this, I'm so proud of you, number one. And number two, like now is the best time for you to start investing, because like 65-year-old you, and you probably can't even imagine that version of you, but hopefully you'll make it there one day and you'll be taken care of. Like you can be a millionaire by then, a multi-millionaire even, like if you start investing now. And not to say that can't happen if you are 30 watching this, or 40. You would just have to put a lot more money into your investments in order to be a millionaire or multi-millionaire by the time you're 60 or 65. So the younger you are, the better. Moving on to savings. So let's do 15% for this, since we're tithing $450. And again, this is a month. So savings, non-negotiable. That when I say non-negotiable, I'm really thinking of like emergency savings, like emergency fund. Like that's really like a non-negotiable. I would do that first and then start saving for, what I said earlier, like a Christmas gift for yourself or a trip with your friends or a bigger thing like a house or a car, make sure you have an emergency savings. I would aim for like at least 1 month emergency fund. Like if you lost your job today, you have money in an emergency fund to cover your expenses for at least 1 month. Like that should be a goal for yourself. So right now we're at $450 with that. And then the guilt-free is another 15%, so $450. And look at how beautiful the pie chart looks now. We have exactly 50% for all of your fixed costs. We have 10% for tithing. Again, that's like an optional thing. That's not something that you have to do, but if you're opting for that, go ahead and do 10%. Then 10% for your long-term investments, 15% for your savings, and then another 15% to do whatever you want to do. And I think that this is a great starting point for a budget. Now, after this is like created, this is like a guideline for you. I then, if you've been watching my other videos, but I've created a Notion template that I then shared with my brother. And first I gave him that pie chart, like this is your overall like strategy for every month, and then you can combine that with this Notion like budgeting template for how you're actually going to apply the strategy to every paycheck and thinking of it that way. And this budget template is now available on my website, lifeandnumbers.com. It's a very big moment. It's finally live. So if you want the template, go ahead and check that out. But yeah, I think, it's such like a pivotal time. If this is like your first time being out on your own and you're wondering like, how do you handle this money that you're making? Because it's probably the most money that you've ever made, right? And you don't know what to do with it. I'm going to link the video of how I actually use the template. I made that video a while back, so I'll link it so that you can watch that so you know how to use the template. But yeah, like if you start learning how to manage money early in your life, it's hard to even express like how beneficial it'll be to your life. Because if you are just starting out, I imagine that you're young. I imagine that you're probably single, you're not married, you may not have kids. Like this is the easiest time that your life is going to be, because as you get older, your life just gets more complicated. Things get added to your plate, more responsibilities. And hopefully as you get further into your career, you'll start making more money. But it's really like now is the time to understand the basics of managing your money, so that as you make more money, you'll know how to manage that as well and not mess it up or like not just blow through your money. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. I really enjoyed making this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Leave some comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next time.